Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this video going over тест элементарного уровня. Номер 63. Мы отдыхали на юге месяце, через месяц или месяц. So the concept here is when you talk about how long you did or are doing something, that is, you're answering the question, как долго, you want to simply state the time in the accusative case. And the key thing to look for here is that you want to look for imperfective verbs. And the reason for that is because you're talking about a process, you're talking about how long you are doing something. You're not focused on a result. So that's why you use the imperfective form of verbs. So as an example, we would say, мы неделю готовили. So we cooked for a week. And it's important to keep in mind here that готовить is not modifying неделя. Неделя is simply going to be in the accusative case because that's how you state the time when you're talking about how long you did something, when you're answering the question как долго. So неделя becomes неделю, я to you ending in the accusative case for a singular feminine noun. Okay, so our options here are месяцы, через месяц или месяц. And the answer is going to be в, месяц. Месяц meaning month. In the accusative case, it's not going to have an ending change because it's a singular masculine noun. And so the answer, мы отдыхали на юге месяц. It can't be месяце because that is the prepositional case. And it can't be через месяц because, well, we're going to be looking at why we use через месяц here. 64. Я поеду домой через месяц или месяц. So поехать, поеду, поехать. Поехать is a perfective verb. Anytime you put a prefix in front of a unidirectional verb of motion, that includes ехать, идти, везти, нести, etc., etc. When you put prefixes with these unidirectional verbs, they become perfective. Okay. Before, they're imperfective. Once you add the prefix, they become perfective. And once you conjugate a perfective verb, you express a future action. So when we're saying я поеду, this means I will go by vehicle because we're using the verb поехать. So when something will happen, meaning in the future, is expressed by the preposition через and что in the accusative case. So через means in, like in a month, in a week, in a year, something will happen. I will go in a month, okay? So one example of this is через неделю все будет готово. In a week, everything will be ready. So here we have a future tense, будет. So you know something will happen in the future. And so you need to use через. In a week, everything will be ready. Через неделю. Okay? And so the answer to 64 would be через месяц. Я поеду домой через месяц. I will go home by vehicle in a month. Okay, it can't be месяце because that's prepositional case. And it can't be месяц because in order to use месяц by itself in the accusative case, you need an imperfective verb and you need to be describing how long it takes you to do something. In this case, we're not describing that at all. We're talking about when something will happen. And so when something will happen, we'll be using через. 65. Экзамен по математике будет в этом. Okay. В каком месяце is the question here. В каком месяце is used to express what month something happens. So as an example, I would say, в марте у меня будет день рождения. So in March, I will have my birthday. So the answer to 65 is going to be месяце. Месяце. Экзамен по математике будет в этом месяце. We know it's prepositional case because we have the preposition в, and then we have этот месяц in the prepositional form. Этот becomes этом, modifying a singular masculine noun. В этом месяце. Okay. 65 is в этом месяце. It can't be через месяц because you already have the в этом. Okay, you already have the в этом, so you know it has to be in the prepositional form. And the prepositional form of месяц is not месяц, it's месяце. 66. Вы очень хорошо читаю, читайте или читают. So these are fairly straightforward. You just need to identify who is performing the action. That is, you need to identify who the subject is. And once you identify the subject, you can then conjugate the verb accordingly. So, вы очень хорошо. The subject here is вы. Okay, you read the poems or the works of Lermontova very well. Okay, so it's going to be Б. Вы очень хорошо читаете. Вы читаете. And that's how you would conjugate читать for вы. Okay. 67. Студенты. Okay, so students. So this is going to be third person plural. Студенты читают по-русски правильно. Okay. The answer is going to be в. Читают. That's the third person plural for the verb читать. 68. Я каждое утро читаю газеты. I read the newspaper every morning. So, я читаю. Okay. And if you're having trouble with this, then just go ahead and look up how to conjugate the verb читать, and this will all make sense. 69. Мы долго ждали или ждешь, когда приедет Марина. So just like the previous three, we want to identify the subject. And once we identify the subject, we can then conjugate the verb. So мы is going to be the subject. All right. Marina is another noun, but that goes together with приедет, when Marina will come. Когда приедет Marina. So Marina and приедет are together already. So мы is left by itself. And in order to conjugate мы, we need to look at these options. Ждал, it can't be ждал because ждал would be first person past tense. Sorry, not first person. Past tense singular masculine. So мы долго ждал would be past tense singular masculine. So that can't be it because мы is plural. So you can't say ждал. You can't say ждешь because you should be able to recognize that ждешь is the second person present tense conjugation of ждать. Okay, ты ждешь. Okay, not мы. You would say мы ждем. All right, so the only option that is left here is Б. Мы долго ждали, because ждали is the past tense plural. And you can say мы долго ждали. The other two options are for singular forms. Okay. 70. Завтра бабушка читала или будет читать внуку сказки. So what's different about this one is that you can say бабушка читает, бабушка читала, или бабушка будет читать. All of that makes sense. Okay. So really you need to identify the verb tense based on keywords, because amongst these options we have the present tense читает, past tense читала, and future tense будет читать. And so the key word here is going to be завтра. Завтра means tomorrow, and because we have this key word tomorrow, we know that we're going to be describing the future tense. And so the answer has to be в. Будет читать. 71. Вчера Катя отдыхала или будет отдыхать дома. So same thing as the last one. You want to look for the key word. The key word here is вчера, yesterday. Yesterday meaning past tense. And so we need to choose the past tense amongst all of these options. And the one that is in the past tense is Б, отдыхала. And I want to remind you guys, anytime you have a verb that has the l ending, whether it's just a l or a la or a li, that's going to be the past tense, okay? So you guys need to be able to recognize different tenses based on the form of the verb. 72. Раньше Петр очень хорошо играл или играет в футбол. Same concept here, just identify the verb tense based on keywords. The keyword here is раньше. Раньше meaning before. Therefore, we need to choose the past tense. And the past tense amongst all of these options is going to be be, играл. Раньше Петр очень хорошо играл в футбол. 73. Скажите, пожалуйста, где можно купить или купил конверты? So you want to identify verb tense based on keywords, and you need to recognize that here we actually have an impersonal construction using an adverb можно. And there's a lot of examples of this. You can use impersonal constructions with the verbs, or excuse me, with the adverbs можно, нельзя, плохо, хорошо, и так далее. But the key thing to note here is that the verb that follows these adverbs is always going to be in the infinitive form. And that's what makes it an impersonal construction. There is no subject being defined here. As an example, we say, нельзя курить. It is forbidden to smoke. Хорошо заниматься каждый день. It's good to practice every day. It's good to occupy oneself every day, right? So you can see курить is not conjugated at all. It's left in the infinitive form. Same thing with the verb заниматься. Okay. The impersonal construction in 73 is можно. Okay, можно. And so if we recognize that it's an impersonal construction, then amongst these options, we must choose the one that is in the infinitive form. And the option that is in the infinitive form is купить. Be. Okay. Купить is going to be third person singular. Купил is past tense for a singular masculine noun. 74. Ты уже прочитаешь или прочитал? Нет, еще читаю. So same deal as previous questions. You want to identify the verb tense based on keywords. And the keyword here is уже. Уже meaning already. Already, therefore, we want to look for the verb in the past tense. And the one option that is in the past tense is be. Ты уже прочитал этот журнал? Did you already read this magazine? And remember, журнал means magazine. It doesn't mean journal. Yeah, еще читаю. Прочитаешь is the future tense conjugation of прочитать because it's a perfective verb. Therefore, when you conjugate it, it's going to be in the future tense. Раньше Миша всегда гулял, гуляет или будет гулять. Okay, same thing as before. Identify the verb tense based on keywords. The keyword here is раньше, before. Before, therefore, you want to look for past tense amongst these options. And the one that is in the past tense is гулял. Раньше Миша всегда гулял по 2 часа. Okay, so the answer is Б гуляет is going to be the present tense, and В будет гулять is going to be future tense. It's important to note here that another key word here is всегда. Всегда means always, and that tells you that it has to be an imperfective verb. That doesn't come into play here amongst these options because we have the same imperfective verb гулять for all of them. But if you did have to choose between an imperfective or perfective verb in the options, you should be able to recognize that you're going to use an imperfective verb with всегда. 76. Сейчас Маша рисовала, нарисовала или рисует картину. Same deal here. Identify the verb tense based on keywords. So сейчас is the key word. Сейчас means now. And if we're talking about now, then we're talking about the present tense. It can't be рисовала or нарисовала because both of these are in the past tense. Okay, rисовать and нарисовать are the verbs, two verbs respectively in the imperfective and perfective form. The only form amongst these options that is imperfective is going to be рисует. Сейчас Маша рисует картину.